There's no question that the exhibition halls at Cityscape Dubai were a lot quieter this year.
The exhibition floor space is down by around 30%. We're down by a similar figure in terms of the number of exhibitors specifically.
In the end, attendance was down some 50%. Not that surprising given the fact it's been a very bad year for real estate across the whole of the GCC. Although it's the decline of Dubai's once red-hot property market that has drawn the most attention.
We've seen falls in real estate values of up to 50% in some locations.
It's fair to say there's been a huge contraction over the last 12 months. Values have decreased.
There's certainly a lot less activity on many of Dubai's building sites these days, with work on numerous developments either having been slowed, stalled, or in some cases quietly cancelled.
The latest reports indicate that 66 or two-thirds of all projects are within the UAE are ongoing and still under construction. So perhaps one-third has been put on hold or they've decided not to go ahead.
The belief is, though, at least among the analysts at the exhibition, that while the Dubai market may still have a little further to fall, particularly in the commercial sector, the worst is now over.
We look at the markets in Dubai, for example, there's a lot of stock and supply still coming on next year. And I think this may further depress some of the rental rates and indeed the sale prices. But in terms of overall stabilisation in the marketplace, we are near the bottom.
The same sentiment applies across the whole of the GCC, according to Ian Ohan of the global real estate company Jones Lang LaSalle.
We've just recently completed an investor sentiment survey, which was a poll of 225 of the region's high net worth individuals, investors, developers, and they unanimously suggested that there would be an improvement in property value and performance in the next 12 to 24 months of varying degrees across the region.
The fact that Dubai's metro started operating in September, along with the imminent opening of the Burj Dubai, the world's tallest building, has also affected the mood of investors.
If you look at the projects, nothing is more significant here than the launch of the world's tallest tower. The Burj Dubai, as well as the metro, really will put Dubai again on the map as it has been over the last 5 years.
And despite some of the negative press the Emirate has received over the last year, the general consensus is that Dubai is still very much a place to do business.
We asked investors to gauge the various nations across the region, the Middle Eastern region, for their city competitiveness. For 10 out of the 13 indicators, Dubai came up number one, which was really talking about things like city infrastructure, openness of the market, availability of product.
While the fall in rents has also meant that Dubai has become a more attractive location.
Dubai became, in 2007-2008, became one of the most expensive real estate destinations in the world, which actually made it somewhat uncompetitive. It became very difficult for businesses to enter, very expensive, and the quality of life from an overall macroeconomic standpoint became challenging, even though we were in a very aggressive economic period.
Now rents are down to 50-60% of what they are, and you can actually get space, it's available, and you can get residential accommodation for your staff. It's far more attractive than it was.
Usually Cityscape Dubai would feature the announcement of some new grand project. This year that didn't happen. But there was other news, such as, for the first time in the exhibition's history, an Iraqi company showcasing a real estate project.
What we are offering is, say here, over 1,500 budget detached housing, which will give the independence with very, very, very low cost. But it is comprehensive house, so people needs that, and we are only covering merely 1% of the Iraq's need of this sector.
Another prominent feature of the exhibition was the continuing GCC interest in Asia as an investment destination. With oil rebounding to higher prices, many of the GCC's sovereign wealth funds are again increasingly liquid. And investments such as Iskandar Malaysia, a vast mixed-use economic zone 3 times the size of neighbouring Singapore, has already pulled in some $1.3 billion from the Gulf, according to its CEO, Harun Johari.
Malaysia being a Muslim country, so it's actually is a friendly, the GCC investors would be very familiar, so easy to do business with.
That common ground is emphasised by a push towards Islamic finance.
One of the economic clusters that actually been earmarked for Iskandar Malaysia is actually on the financial side, part of the services. So indeed, and Malaysia overall actually has been in the leading edge in terms of the development of the Sharia compliant in terms of the financial services. So indeed, there is a lot of potential future there.
And that potential is not limited solely to finance, with some aspects of the development already ahead of schedule.
We've been asked to accelerate several aspects of the project. As an example, for Legoland, which we announced last year that we would start operating in 2013. As part of the stimulus package that our Prime Minister has announced, we've been asked to accelerate that, and we now are targeting to open in April of 2012.
And in fact, according to the developers, the economic downturn has actually created some advantages.
The interest is still high. The reason for that is actually fundamentally is a good place for long-term investors to actually stay on. In fact, some of the existing investors that have committed to invest is taking advantage of the current financial crisis in terms of the lower cost.
This year's Cityscape Dubai was certainly a more subdued affair, but the hope is that the lack of froth or speculative frenzy means that the next stage of the region's development will soon be back on track.